Didn't know we were hiring quotas to run this place." His words cracked across the conference room like a whip. My chest tightened and I stared at the long, polished table where a dozen faces froze. No one moved. No one breathed. I scanned the room, waiting for someone, anyone, to speak. But silence filled the air thicker than smoke. A cough broke it, soft, nervous. Then whispers. "He didn't mean it like that," murmured a voice from the far end. "Don't overthink it," another whispered, eyes sliding away from me. I pushed back from my chair, my palms flat against the cold surface. "You all heard him? And yet silence, why?" The manager leaned back in his seat, smirk tugging at his lips. "Relax, it was a joke. People are too sensitive these days." My throat burned. "A joke? My humanity reduced to a punchline? Sensitive?" I muttered, my voice low but sharp. "You question my right to sit here, and they—" I swept my gaze across the staff, their eyes darting down. "They bury it under whispers because it's safer." Someone near me fidgeted, knuckles white against a notebook. "It's not like that," he mumbled. "Then what is it like?" I snapped, my voice cracking the quiet. The manager chuckled. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Nobody's taking it seriously but you." Inside, rage tangled with shame. Their silence wasn't neutrality. It was betrayal. Every lowered gaze felt like another stone pressing on my chest. I forced myself to breathe, each inhale sharp. My voice steadied. "You think silence absolves you? It doesn't. Silence is complicity. Every one of you chose his comfort over my dignity." The smirk wavered. Not much, but enough. Still, no one stood. No one defended me. A woman at the corner whispered, almost pleading, "Please, let's move on. We've got numbers to review." I turned to her, my heart heavy. "Move on? As if my worth is a line item you can skip?" Her lips pressed shut. The manager tapped the table, feigning boredom. "This is ridiculous. Let's not waste time." His tone was oil-slick, mocking, smooth, impossible to grip. Inside my head, I heard echoes of childhood. Teachers telling me I had to work twice as hard. Neighbors muttering slurs through fences. 1,000 quiet humiliations sewn together into this moment. I clenched my fists under the table. Not this time. Not quietly. I stood, chair scraping the floor like a protest. You can dismiss me with a smirk. They can hide behind silence. But I won't bury this. No one spoke. The weight of their complicity pressed harder, thicker. I looked each of them in the eye, one by one. Some flinched. Some stared blankly. None defended me. My chest rose and fell, sharp breaths forcing words out. You stayed silent because it was safer. But remember this, your silence cut deeper than his insult. The manager shifted, arms crossed. If you can't handle a little workplace banter, maybe you're not fit for this position. The air thinned. My jaw tightened. Not fit? I built this company's rise on sleepless nights and unbroken will. And he reduces me to unfit? I leaned forward, voice low, every word deliberate. What you call banter is poison, and one day it will choke you. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Silence spread again, thicker, heavier. I gathered my notes, not because I cared about the papers, but because I needed something to hold, something to stop my hands from shaking. I looked back at them, staff who chose comfort over courage. The betrayal stung sharper than his words. That was the day, I whispered to myself, though loud enough for them to hear. I decided, your comfort ends where my dignity begins. The room froze. Not a single voice rose to stop me as I walked out. The door clicked shut behind us, sealing the tension into my office like smoke trapped in a jar. My pulse hadn't slowed since the meeting. He leaned against the edge of my desk as if he owned it, a smirk tugging at his lips. You're overreacting, he muttered, flicking invisible dust from his sleeve. People are too sensitive these days. His tone was light, careless, but every syllable was barbed. I clenched my jaw, heat rising to my face. Gaslighting, textbook racism wrapped in casual dismissal. Sensitive? I whispered, pacing a slow line across the carpet. You questioned my right to be in that room. You stripped me of dignity in front of the people I lead. He chuckled, low and mocking. It was banter. Workplace banter. You know, lighten up, laugh a little. My hands curled into fists. Banter doesn't sound like a whip cracking through a room. Banter doesn't freeze 12 people into silence. He tilted his head, feigning innocence. So what? You want me to grovel? Fall on my knees and beg for forgiveness. The door opened then. The HR representative stepped in, cautious eyes darting between us. She cleared her throat. Gentlemen, let's not escalate. We can resolve this calmly? Calmly? I muttered, turning toward her. Did you hear what he said? She shifted, avoiding my gaze. I've heard concerns, but sometimes intent matters more than words. My stomach twisted. There it was, the shield of bureaucracy, polished smooth enough to erase wounds. I snapped, my voice louder now. Intent doesn't erase humiliation. Intent doesn't silence a room full of complicit faces. The HR rep raised her palms. I understand you're upset, but accusations of racism are serious. We should focus on professionalism. Professionalism? I cut in, my voice trembling with restrained fury. Professionalism was his weapon. He used the boardroom as his stage, my skin as his punchline. And you want to call this a misunderstanding? The manager straightened, arms crossed, grin widening. See? This is exactly the problem. Everything's racism now. You can't even make a joke without someone twisting it. I stepped closer, eyes locked on his. A joke that diminishes me is not harmless. A joke that thrives on silence is violence dressed as comedy. He flinched, just slightly, but his arrogance remained painted across his face. The HR rep's voice wavered. Let's not use words like violence. That escalates things unnecessarily. My chest burned. I turned toward her. Unnecessarily? Do you know how unnecessary silence feels when it slices deeper than the insult itself? She dropped her gaze to the floor. Silence again. An echo of that meeting. I inhaled sharply, forcing steadiness back into my tone. If this company can't call this what it is, then it's not just his insult I'm fighting. It's every wall of denial you hide behind. The manager's smirk slipped for the first time. Careful. You're making enemies where you don't need to. I leaned in, voice low, steady, deliberate. Enemies are made the moment dignity is mocked. I didn't choose this war, you declared it with a smirk. The HR rep's hands trembled as she scribbled in her notebook. Her voice cracked. Perhaps we should schedule a formal mediation. Cooler heads! No, I whispered, every syllable sharp. There will be no cooling down when my humanity is on trial. The room was suffocating with silence. His smirk faltered into a tight line. She shifted nervously, trapped between policies and conscience. I felt the weight of the moment press into me. Every time I'd been told to calm down, every memory of biting my tongue for survival, every scar of silence carved deeper into my bones. This time, I wouldn't retreat. You call it sensitivity, I murmured, staring straight at him. But it's survival. You call it banter, but it's poison. And you, I turned toward her, call it professionalism, but it's complicity. No one answered. The hum of the air vent filled the silence, loud enough to sting my ears. I gathered my breath, spine rigid, voice breaking through the air like glass. Remember this moment? Because the next time you try to bury me under silence, I will not stay buried. The HR rep swallowed hard. He shifted his weight, arms uncrossed at last. I stepped back, pointing toward the door. Get out of my office. Neither moved at first. The weight of my words lingered, heavy and unyielding. Finally, the HR rep whispered, "We'll follow up." He smirked again, but it was weaker now, stretched thin over cracks. You'll regret making this bigger than it needs to be. I didn't blink. The only thing I regret is giving silence too much room to live. He pushed off the desk, brushing past me. The door slammed harder than it needed to. The HR rep lingered, her eyes pleading for a softer end. I turned away, staring out the window, fists trembling. Go, I muttered. The door clicked shut, and in the quiet that followed, the truth pulsed in my chest like a vow. This battle was far from over. They called it an apology meeting. I called it theater. The executives sat in a semicircle, papers shuffled, eyes lowered, their silence rehearsed. My chest tightened as I walked in, the weight of their performance already pressing on me. The manager cleared his throat, his voice carrying that same smug undertone that had gutted me days earlier. "If anyone took offense," he muttered, words dripping with reluctance. "I'm sorry." The room stayed still, their nods stiff, mechanical. I leaned forward, my palms pressed against the table. "You're sorry I noticed," I whispered, every word sharp. "Not sorry you said it." He shifted, shrugging, eyes darting toward the board. "Look, I didn't mean it like that. We're all colleagues here. Sometimes words come out wrong." A low murmur passed between two executives. One of them coughed into his fist. "It's best we move forward," he said softly, not meeting my eyes. "Move forward?" My voice cracked louder than I intended. "You mean bury it? You want me to play along with his performance, so the company can pretend this never happened?" The manager smirked again, arms crossed. "What else do you want?" I gave the apology. "This could all go away if you'd just let it." My throat burned. "Go away? Like a stain you cover instead of scrubbing out? Like every wound I've been told to move past just to keep the peace?" I steadied my breath. "Words without accountability are theater, and every one of you knows it." An executive finally looked up, his voice flat. "We don't want this to spiral. Public perception matters. We'd like to resolve this internally." I turned to him, jaw clenched. "Resolve? You're not resolving anything. You're rehearsing damage control." The HR rep sat at the corner, her pen scratching across her notebook. She didn't look at me. "Not once." "Tell me," I muttered, leaning closer to the manager. "If I had mocked your whiteness in front of a room full of staff, would this apology feel enough?" He stiffened. "That's not the same. It's exactly the same," I snapped, my hand slamming against the table. Papers trembled, some sliding to the floor. "But it won't ever be tested, will it? Because no one in this room knows what it feels like to be reduced to a joke your colleagues are too afraid to condemn." The silence was suffocating. I felt their discomfort crawling across the room, but no one broke it. Finally, the HR rep whispered, "This meeting is about reconciliation. We should focus on solutions." "Reconciliation requires truth," I muttered, voice shaking. "And the truth is, he's not sorry. He's scared. Scared of losing face, not of what his words mean." The manager straightened, his tone defensive now. "I've apologized. If you can't accept it, that's your problem." My chest heaved, anger colliding with exhaustion. "No," I whispered. "It's your problem. Because every forced word, every insincere shrug, proves you never saw me as human in the first place." The words hung heavy in the air. He froze, his lips parting as if to retort, but nothing came out. The executives shifted uncomfortably, glances exchanged like silent pleas for me to stop. But I wouldn't. Not this time. "I will not accept an apology meant to save your image while it spits on my dignity," I said firmly, pushing back from the table. "And if you think silence and paperwork will bury this, you've already lost more than you know," the manager muttered under his breath. "You'll regret making this bigger than it is." I turned, my voice low but unshaken. "No. You'll regret underestimating what it means when silence finally breaks." The room went cold. I walked out before any of them could speak again. The door slammed behind me, and in that echo I felt the weight of their hypocrisy tighten like a noose, but also the spark of something new. Resolve. I heard them before they heard me. In the break room, their voices dipped low, hushed but sharp enough to cut through the walls. I lingered by the doorway, heart pounding. "He'll sue the company, watch." "No. Management will protect him, not us. Better to keep your head down. Safer that way." Their words landed like stones. So that was it. Not silence out of indifference. Silence out of fear. I stepped inside, my footsteps deliberate. Chairs scraped. "Coffee cups froze midway to lips. You think I don't hear you?" I muttered, voice trembling. "You think whispers carry less weight than silence?" A young analyst stammered, eyes wide. "We didn't mean—" "You meant every word." I cut him off, my chest tight. "You meant that it's safer to let me bleed alone than risk a bruise of your own." The room went still, breathless. Another voice broke through, hesitant. "It's not that we don't care. It's what if speaking up costs us our jobs? I laughed, hollow, bitter. So my dignity is negotiable? Disposable? A gamble not worth your paychecks? Their eyes dropped to the floor. No one argued. That silence again, cowardice wrapped in caution. I pressed harder, my voice cracking. Do you know what it feels like to stand in a room of colleagues and realize not one would spend a single word defending you? A woman whispered, her hands shaking around her mug. We were scared. He's protected. You know how it works. Her honesty cut deeper than denial. Fear. The soil where complicity grows. Scared, I murmured. And yet you watched me stand alone. Your fear became his shield. The door swung open then, 2 staff members rushing in mid-conversation, unaware I was there. It's already out, one muttered. Yeah, someone leaked it. The press is sniffing. The room froze again. My chest jolted. Leaked! I asked, voice sharp. They stopped dead, eyes locking with mine. Panic flickered. I didn't mean... Say it! I snapped. What's out? A long pause. Then, almost in a whisper, the insult. Someone talked. It's spreading outside, my pulse thundered in my ears. The walls I thought would bury me had cracked open. Murmurs spread across the room. The company's reputation is on the line now. They'll spin it, they always do. What if investors pull out? I watched their fear mutate. No longer about me, but about the fallout, you see? I muttered, my throat tight. The moment it leaks beyond these walls, you all find your voices. Not for me, for the company. For the brand. One man bristled, defensive. That's not fair. We didn't ask for this mess. My voice dropped, heavy. Neither did I, but I'm the one living in it. Every glance, every silence, every whisper behind doors you thought I couldn't hear. The room collapsed into quiet. I saw guilt in some eyes, defiance in others. None spoke up to undo the damage. I stepped closer, words measured, almost a whisper. When this reaches the world beyond these walls, remember what you said here. Remember that your fear was his cover, your whispers his armor. A woman's voice cracked. What if we support you now? Speak out, I laughed bitterly. Now? When the press is watching? When it costs less to defend me than to stay silent? Silence again, raw, unbearable. I turned toward the door, my chest heaving. You want to know what betrayal sounds like? It sounds like nothing. Like whispers that die when the door opens. I pulled the handle, the metal cold against my palm. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. And soon the whole world will hear what you were too afraid to say out loud. The door slammed behind me, their silence echoing like thunder in my chest. Out in the corridor, my phone buzzed. A message lit the screen, short, sharp. Call me. Reporter wants your statement. My throat tightened. The story was no longer theirs to bury. It was mine to tell, and for the first time I felt the shift. Their whispers had set the stage. My voice would claim it. The boardroom lights buzzed faintly, the hum pressing against my temples. Every seat was filled, polished faces staring back, some stern, some weary, all carrying the weight of money heavier than truth. One of them leaned forward, his voice clipped. We don't need scandals. Be the bigger man. I let out a bitter laugh, my hands pressed flat on the cold table. Being the bigger man, I whispered, means never being seen as a man at all. Murmurs broke across the room. A woman on the far side cleared her throat. No one here condones what was said. But escalating this will only damage the company. We have investors watching. My stomach tightened. There it was, the mask of concern, stitched with dollar signs. I leaned back, my voice steadier now. So his insult isn't the problem, it's the headlines that scare you. An older director snapped, his voice gravelly. You're twisting this. We're trying to protect you too. If this gets worse, you'll be dragged through the mud along with him. Dragged? I muttered, heat burning my throat. I was dragged the moment silence filled that room. I was dragged when laughter curled at the edges of his insult, and no one raised a word to stop it. A younger member shifted uncomfortably. Look, we can spin this. Frame it as a misunderstanding. Release a joint statement. Both of you share a handshake, smile for the cameras, and the storm will pass. The words sliced through me. A handshake? A smile? My fists trembled on the table. You want me to shake the hand that mocked my existence? Smile for the comfort of those who benefit from silence? The chairman spoke then, his voice slow, deliberate. You're angry. We understand. But anger clouds judgment. Sometimes leadership means swallowing pride for stability. I stared at him, my chest heaving. Swallowing pride? My voice rose, cracking. Every time I've swallowed pride, it's turned to poison in my gut. Every time I've bent for stability, it's broken another piece of me. The room quieted, their discomfort palpable. I pressed harder, words spilling raw. Do you know what it feels like to carry yourself twice as high just to be seen at eye level? To know that one insult can erase years of work while your defense is framed as instability? A woman murmured, avoiding my gaze. We're asking you to be pragmatic. Think of the bigger picture. The bigger picture, I snapped, my hand slamming the table, isn't your stock values. The bigger picture is dignity, humanity, and every compromise you're asking me to make paints a picture where I don't exist. Silence stretched, thick and uneasy. Another director finally spoke, his tone sharp. You're making this personal. I locked eyes with him, my voice steady. It is personal. Racism is always personal. The only reason you can pretend otherwise is because you've never been on the receiving end. The words hung heavy. For the first time, no one interrupted. I breathed deep, lowering my voice. You want this buried because it threatens comfort. But comfort is the enemy of justice, and I will not be your scapegoat of silence, a director muttered under his breath. If this goes public, you'll split the company. I leaned forward, my voice quiet but sharp. No. He already split the company with a smirk and a single line. I'm the one trying to hold it together with truth. Their faces stiffened. Some flinched. Some stared blankly. None spoke. I pushed back from the table, chair scraping against the floor like a warning. You can choose silence. You can choose spin, but don't expect me to choose complicity. Not again! The chairman finally broke, his tone almost pleading. Think carefully. Once you step outside that door with this, there's no going back. I paused at the threshold, hand on the handle, heart hammering. My voice came low, firm. I went back the day you asked me to swallow it. Forward is the only direction left. The door swung open, the air outside rushing in, cool and sharp. And as I walked out, the silence behind me felt heavier than all their words combined, because it was the silence of power cracking, even if they didn't know it yet. The hallway buzzed with whispers. But this time they weren't about me. They were about what was coming. The press was circling, the board was restless, and the staff looked at me differently now. Not defiant, not silent. Something else. A knock at my office door. Hesitant. Come in, I muttered, my chest tight. A young employee slipped inside, closing the door quickly as if afraid of being seen. His hands shook as he clutched the strap of his bag. He didn't meet my eyes. I wanted to speak up, he stammered, voice breaking. But I was scared. I stared at him, silence pressing between us. Scared, the word that had built this entire wall of betrayal. Scared of what? I asked, my tone sharp. He swallowed hard. Scared of losing my job. Scared of making enemies. Scared that if I stood with you, I'd be next. I leaned forward, my voice low. Fear is the soil racism grows in. Don't water it. His eyes darted up, finally meeting mine. A flicker of shame. I know. I hated myself for sitting there. For saying nothing? My chest ached. At least he admitted it. Honesty. Fragile but real. Unlike the polished lies of the board. You think silence protected you? I muttered. It didn't. It chained you. And those chains don't break on their own. He gripped the strap tighter, his voice cracking. Tell me what to do now. How do I fix what I didn't do then? I stood, pacing slowly, fists clenching and unclenching. You don't fix silence with excuses. You fix it with truth. With courage. Speak even when your voice shakes. His throat bobbed. What if I'm too late? I turned sharply, my voice rising. It's always too late for yesterday. But not for today. Not for tomorrow. He flinched at the volume, but his eyes didn't drop this time. Then I'll speak. I'll tell people what really happened. I'll say I should have defended you. I froze, staring at him. The knot in my chest loosened, slightly. Words like that, spoken in daylight, can undo whispers in the dark. He nodded, more certain now. Others feel the same. They just don't know how to start. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Start small. Tell the truth. Refuse to laugh at poison disguised as jokes. Refuse to be silent when silence wounds. His eyes glistened. You're right. We can't keep feeding it. Don't water it, I repeated firmly. Starve it until it dies. The door cracked open again, another figure slipping in. Then another. 3 more employees stood there, nervous but determined. We wanted to say, one began, voice trembling. You weren't alone. We saw it. We felt sick. We just didn't fight, I finished for her, the words bitter but true. She nodded, shame etched in her whisper. But we will now. A man behind her muttered, The company's pretending it's nothing. That makes us complicit too. I inhaled sharply, the sound almost a laugh. Complicit. At least you name it. At least you see it. They shifted uneasily, waiting. I looked at them one by one. If you mean this, then don't whisper to me in closed rooms. Whisper becomes noise only when it leaves the shadows. The young employee straightened, voice firmer. Then we'll stand, together. My throat tightened. For the first time in weeks, I felt it. A spark not of fear, but of power. Not loud yet, but growing. I leaned against the desk, my voice quieter now, steady. Dignity doesn't wait for permission. It claims its place. If you walk with me, know this. It will cost you. Fear won't vanish, but courage will matter more, they nodded. No hesitation this time. For a long moment, silence filled the room again, but not the silence of betrayal. A different kind. Heavy, charged, waiting. I exhaled slowly, the weight in my chest easing. Then let's see if your whispers can finally become a roar. Their eyes burned brighter. For the first time, I wasn't the only one carrying the fire, and as they left one by one, I felt it settle inside me, the shift. The silence that had once cut me was cracking, and dignity, my dignity, was no longer mine alone. The cameras flashed like lightning, burning heat into my skin. The press had descended, their voices sharp, questions ricocheting across the conference hall. This isn't his first time, is it? One journalist barked, microphone thrust forward. The room tensed. My pulse hammered. I turned my gaze to him, the manager. His smirk was gone, replaced by a pale twitch of lips. It was a joke, he stammered, sweat beading at his temple. I didn't mean it that way. A reporter snapped back. So it wasn't the first time? His voice faltered, thinner now. People are twisting my words. They're digging up old, irrelevant incidents. Old incidents. The words crashed through me. So this wasn't an accident, it was a pattern. Another journalist chimed in, reading from a page. 2 years ago, recorded emails mocking diversity hires, and last year, complaints about cultural fit during recruitment. Care to explain? He froze. His hands clenched, jaw working furiously as though he could chew down the truth. They were jokes, taken out of context, he muttered, voice cracking. I couldn't hold back. Context doesn't twist a slur into a smile. Context doesn't turn poison into water, murmurs spread across the room, cameras flashing harder. He snapped suddenly, his voice sharp, desperate. You're making me the villain! Everyone jokes. Everyone says things behind closed doors. Why am I being crucified? I stepped forward, chest tight, voice low but steady. Because your jokes cut flesh. Because your words are not slips. They are scars repeated. And because silence covered for you until truth finally broke free. The press seized the moment, voices overlapping. Did the board know? Was this covered up? Will he resign? The staff in the back shifted uncomfortably, whispers trembling in the air. One reporter's voice sliced through the chaos. You mocked the CEO publicly. Do you deny it? His face flushed crimson. His lips trembled. He looked around, searching for rescue, but the room was silent. No board member, no HR rep, no polished executive stepped in this time. For the first time, he was truly alone. My voice rang across the silence, calm and cutting. You thought laughter would protect you. You thought silence was your shield. But now every eye sees what that silence hid. He snapped back, panic bleeding into rage. You wanted this! You're using me to look like some hero! I leaned closer, my words deliberate, sharp as glass. No, I wanted dignity. You gave me mockery. The press wanted truth. You gave them lies. Collapse is not what I sought. It's what you built. His breath came heavy, shoulders sagging as the questions pressed harder. Another journalist's tone was merciless. Will you apologize now? Not to save your job, but because you finally understand? He muttered, voice fraying. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I cut him off, voice steady, echoing. You didn't mean to be caught. The crowd erupted, pens scratching, cameras flaring, whispers turning to gasps. His head dropped into his hands, shoulders slumped, the collapse no longer hidden. Inside me, something shifted. Not joy, not triumph. A quiet, steady weight. The silence that once drowned me had finally turned on him. The journalists pressed forward, their voices relentless. Will you step down? Are you fit to lead? Should the company remove him immediately? He didn't answer. Couldn't. His silence was no longer power. It was surrender. I breathed deep, my chest heavy but firm. I looked at them all, then spoke, my voice calm. Dignity is not negotiable. And today you've seen what happens when silence protects the powerful instead of the just. The flashes came harder, brighter, searing the moment into permanence. And as I stepped back, I felt it, the turning point. The collapse was no longer mine to bear. It was his. The hall buzzed louder, but his silence roared above it all. The hall was packed, every seat taken, cameras buzzing, eyes burning into me. I felt their weight, but this time it didn't crush me. It steadied me. Across the stage, he sat stiff, face pale, the smirk long gone. A journalist's voice cracked through the noise. Will you address the accusations directly? He coughed, tugged at his collar. I already apologized. I never intended harm. It was banter, nothing more. My chest tightened, but I leaned forward, voice calm. Banter doesn't break silence like glass. Banter doesn't freeze a room into betrayal. Gasps rippled through the audience. He snapped back, voice sharp. You're exaggerating. You're twisting this to make yourself look righteous. I stood, palms flat on the table, my voice rising. Righteous? No. Human. And every silence, every laugh at my expense was complicity. Today, that silence ends. The staff seated in the back shifted, some whispering, some nodding. For the first time, I saw courage crack through their fear. He slammed his hand down, trembling. This is a witch hunt! I've given years to this company, and one mistake, one slip, and I'm crucified? I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a deliberate whisper that still carried across the room. One mistake doesn't leave a trail. One slip doesn't echo in emails, in complaints, in whispered fears. This isn't a slip. It's a pattern you polished until you believed it was normal. His lips parted, but no words came. Cameras flashed harder. I turned to the staff, to the board, to the press. You want to know why it festered? Because silence fed it. Because every lowered gaze, every shrug, every let it go kept him safe. Racism survives not in the mouths of cowards, but in the silence of witnesses. The room stirred, a wave of murmurs breaking loose. He muttered, voice shaking now. You're destroying me in front of everyone. I looked at him, my chest heavy but steady. No. You destroyed yourself the moment you mocked dignity and thought silence would shield you. A journalist raised her voice. Do you believe he should resign? I didn't blink. Resignations are paperwork. What he needs is to face the truth he's run from his whole life. That power built on humiliation will always collapse. He buried his face in his hands. His silence now roared louder than his excuses ever had. I inhaled deeply, my voice soft but sharp. For years I was told to be the bigger man, to swallow insults, to smile through wounds, to trade dignity for survival. But survival without dignity is slow death. I refuse it. And I refuse silence. The hall went quiet. No coughs, no whispers, only the stillness of truth settling heavy in the air. I turned fully toward him. You asked why I didn't laugh. Because I'm not your punchline. Because my skin is not your stage. Because I am not here to make you comfortable while I choke on your poison. He shook his head, voice breaking. I didn't think it mattered that much. I leaned in, my words final, unshakable. It always mattered. You just never saw me as human enough to matter. The silence broke, applause rising, first hesitant, then crashing like a wave. Staff stood, Reporters scribbled, some clapped with tears glistening in their eyes. He slumped deeper in his chair. Small, shrinking, swallowed by the truth he could no longer spin. And me, I stood taller. Not because I had won, but because dignity had finally claimed its place where silence once reigned. The building felt different that morning, quieter, almost hollow. Whispers carried in the hall, but they were no longer about me. They were about him. His name trailed behind muttered words. Resignation statement. Disgrace. I walked past their stares, their nods, their sudden attempts at warmth. My chest tightened, not with anger anymore, but with a strange, fragile calm. One of the younger staff members caught up to me, breath unsteady. "Sir, I just wanted to say, what you did up there, you didn't just speak for yourself. You spoke for us all." I paused, searching his trembling eyes. "Then promise me this. Don't let fear turn your voice into silence again." "Fear is how cruelty survives." His lips quivered, but he nodded. "I won't. Not anymore." I turned toward the boardroom where his empty chair sat like a ghost. The leather still indented, the space still carrying the weight of his arrogance. Someone murmured across the table, "He's gone." Effective immediately. Couldn't face the fallout. Another added softly, "The company will survive, but it won't ever be the same." I sank into my seat, the room pressing in around me. Their eyes darted toward me now, but not with dismissal, not with smirks. With something heavier. Respect. Or maybe guilt. A woman cleared her throat. You carried more than you should have had to." "We should have stood with you sooner," I exhaled slowly. "What matters is you stand now. Don't mistake this for victory, though. This isn't about one man falling. It's about all of us deciding what we refuse to carry forward." Silence settled, but it wasn't the silence of complicity anymore. It was the silence of reckoning. When the meeting broke, I stayed behind, staring at the chair across from me. His chair. Empty now, but for years it had been filled with sneers, with whispers dressed as jokes, with a power that thrived on my restraint. I thought of the night it all began, the sting of his words, the way the room froze, the way every eye turned away. I had walked out of that room carrying the weight of their comfort on my shoulders. Now, as I rose, I left that weight on the empty chair. By the elevators, another staff member stopped me, voice breaking. "You made us see ourselves." That silence, it was ours too. And I'm sorry. I met his gaze, my throat tightening. Dignity was never theirs to grant. It was always mine to claim. And yesterday, I claimed it. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the steel. The same face, the same eyes, but lighter. Not because the storm had spared me, but because I had stood in it, unshaken, until it passed. And for the first time in years, the silence around me didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like peace. I stood at the front of the hall where the staff had gathered, faces I had known for years, faces that had looked away when I needed them most. My palms pressed against the lectern, and I let the silence stretch. Not the silence of betrayal this time, but the silence of expectation. I drew in a breath, steady, deliberate. "We froze that day," I began, my voice low but unyielding. "Not because time stopped, but because truth broke the air." His words split open what many of you already knew but refused to face. A few heads lowered. Others shifted uncomfortably. "Some of you laughed," I added, my throat tightening. "Some of you whispered excuses. Most of you said nothing at all. Silence felt safer. But silence has never protected anyone but the one doing harm." A woman in the front row raised her trembling hand. "We were afraid. Of losing jobs, of standing alone." I met her eyes, my chest burning. Fear is real. I lived with it too. But fear is the soil where racism grows. And when you water it with silence, it blooms into cruelty. Someone from the back muttered, almost ashamed, "We thought it would pass, that it wasn't our fight." I clenched the edge of the lectern until my knuckles ached. When they insulted me, when they mocked my voice, my skin, my place in this company, you told yourselves it wasn't your fight. But do you know what I heard in that silence? That my dignity was negotiable. That my humanity was optional. The room stayed hushed. No one moved. I leaned forward, letting my words strike sharper. "Never let silence be your excuse again." A ripple of breaths moved through the crowd. My voice softened, not from weakness, but resolve. Because dignity was never theirs to grant me. It was always mine to claim. And I claimed it the moment I refused to laugh it off, refused to shrink, refused to be smaller so others could stay comfortable. A young man near the aisle whispered, barely audible, "You taught us what courage looks like." I exhaled, closing my eyes briefly. My father's voice echoed in my mind, fragments of old advice, words forged in struggle. Dignity isn't given, it's carried, and the day you put it down for their comfort is the day you've already lost. I straightened, letting the weight of memory ground me. This company will change only if each of you decides that dignity is non-negotiable. Not just mine, yours, everyone's. Speak when it costs you something. Stand when it shakes the ground beneath you. The silence deepened again, but it was no longer suffocating. It was listening. I stepped back from the lectern, my heart pounding but clear. That day he thought he was mocking me. Instead, he revealed the truth of us all, and that truth froze the room. Not shame, not scandal, truth. Today I leave you with one charge: never freeze again. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, hands began to clap. Not loud at first. Tentative, almost uncertain. But it grew. Louder, steadier, layered with something raw, recognition, perhaps even repentance. I stood still, letting the sound wash over me, not as validation, but as a promise. A promise I would hold them to. As the applause rose, my eyes returned to the chair in the corner, the one he had once occupied with arrogance. Empty now, and it would remain so. To me, it was no longer just an absence. It was a reminder, a symbol of what collapses when dignity stands unshaken. I turned from the hall, my final words echoing in my chest like a vow. Their comfort ends where my dignity begins. And for the first time, I walked away lighter, carrying not their silence but my own legacy of dignity.